Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Harris Histories. No, football. On the side of Harris Histories, I thought I'd make a few videos about football because students come to me all the time asking me about strategy, tactics. Maybe they just want to make fun of Manchester United. But there's just various football conversations I have. So I thought this would be a good place to sort of consolidate those thoughts and put them in a video. So this very first episode has to do with formations, specifically one formation that I feel like is sort of the most consistent and fail-proof formation, which is the 4-4-2. So before we get into it, I just want to show this video quickly of Barcelona playing. And as we watch this video, you just notice the possession they have. And football's evolving, as all sports do. And this type of football is known as tiki-taka, very possession-based. One thing you'll notice is also the immense amount of respect Barcelona gets. The defense tends to never really jump into any of their players because they know Barcelona players are quite capable of also taking players on one-on-one. And, as I've been talking in this last 20-30 seconds, Real Madrid has not touched the ball. This is a very, it's a good style play, but the problem is this. Not everyone can be Barcelona, right? In order for a team to play that style of tiki-taka, you need 11 players, not 10, 9. You need 11 players who can play with their feet. They can distribute, they can trap the ball, they won't make mistakes. And for example, great players like Kanté, played for Leicester last season, Chelsea this season. Those type of players could not operate in this type of system. And the second point, as I've mentioned before, you also have to assume the other team is going to give you that space. Not all teams are going to give you that kind of respect unless you have a badge like Real Madrid or Barcelona. And finally, team identity and team style. The problem with tiki-taka is that sometimes it lacks flexibility. So we've seen this in the past where teams like Real Madrid or Chelsea will change their playing style 180 degrees, say when they have an away match in Champions League in comparison to their home games in order to get draws when necessary. And right now, actually, as we speak, as the Premier League goes on, the 2016-17 season, we're seeing perhaps Manchester City learning the hard way. So the current manager, one of the best managers in the world, Pep Guardiola, who managed Bayern Munich and Barcelona, is realizing that he cannot really use his tiki-taka style based on the players he has as well as the league he's playing in. So here are just a few examples why. So you see here, there's a back pass that goes to John Stone, and the manager has told him, play it to the keeper, possession, possession. Any other team in that situation, you would never pass the ball back to the keeper. And it leads towards a Jamie Vardy goal. Very similar error here. Again, John Stones. There's quite a bit of pressure put on him. Again, most other teams, it's okay to just boot the ball out, yet he's been told by his manager, no, keep possession. As a result, they give up a very soft goal to Sunderland's Redmond. Or that might be Southampton, I'm not sure, but either way, it's a soft goal. And finally, we have their goalkeeper, Bravo. I don't even know why he's out there. And it leads towards a handball and a red card. Again, this tiki-taka, this style where possession football, I'm not saying is a bad thing, but you need 11 players who all are good with their feet. Otherwise, it just does not work in the modern game, as Pep Guardiola is learning the hard way through the Premier League. To the contrary, the 4-4-2 provides defensive consistency. So whether it be Atletico Madrid, who went all the way to the finals last season, or Leicester City that won the Premier League last season, both these teams utilize a system where you have 4 strong defenders in the back who are supported by 2 defensive midfielders who are running around everywhere. They're covering holes created in the back 4. They're making sure that space right in front of the center backs, especially right outside of that penalty box, is shut down. not allowing other teams to take shots from right outside the box. Right, you have Thiago and Gabi for Atletico. You have Kante and Drinkwater for Leicester. And what's very interesting is these aren't necessarily the most technically gifted players. Right, this style of formation, 4-4-2, it allows players like Kante and Drinkwater to run around and to utilize their stamina and utilize their amount of work in order to help the defense. Furthermore, what makes a 4-4-2 a special formation is how you can mold it into different ways depending on the players you have on your team. So for example, these two in the middle here, if we look at Juventus, for example, they have Pirlo and Perea playing one very defensive and the other plays very offensive, right? And overall, it's a very tight-knit midfield. On the other hand, you have teams like Chelsea a few seasons ago where you set Lampard and Ramirez right in front of the center backs, kind of similar to what Atletico and Leicester do, and you set free your two wingers. So you put two very offensive wingers, usually fast guys like Hazard, and you allow those guys to attack freely, not have to worry too much about defense because they've already got 6 guys behind them, right? So they have that time to rest when the other team has the ball, and they have time to really attack and run straight at the goal as soon as they get the ball. The other two positions that have quite a bit of flexibility are the forwards, right? You have the big man, small man build. We saw France use this in the Euro this year, where Giroud would head the ball down to Griezmann, and Griezmann would take the shots. A lot of teams use this big man, small man model. At the same time, though, let's say you have 2 strikers. They both can shoot, they both can head, they both can pass the ball and dribble. For example, Manchester United a few seasons ago with Van Persie and Rooney. In that case, you just play them side by side. And this can be very annoying for a 4-back because with a 4-back, now your 2 center backs have to man mark each of those 2 guys. And it's also annoying with a 3-back because with a 3-back, it's easy for there to be miscommunication and for there to be clarity in regards to which player is going to be free and which 2 guys are going to cover the 2 center forwards. So ultimately it comes back to the concept of defense wins championships. So if we look at most of the winners in the past years, whether it be Leicester, Chelsea, Manchester United under Ferguson,
he set his team
they
up.
all had
whether you want to call it 4 at the back,
units.
5 or 6 at times.
In this video, as you can see,
it worked incredibly well for them.
Chelsea
not
not only
well
has a nice
4
flat
at the back there, the
back
3 in
four,
midfield,
the
Oldham,
key
Mikel,
thing is they
Matic,
have
Lampard,
midfield
and the 2
supporting them,
wing-backs,
making
if
sure
you
there's
like.
almost no
They came and
space
tucked in. There's just
between that
no
back
space.
four
There's no
and
space
the
down the
midfield.
side. There's no space
Not allowing
behind.
any passes to go right
and there's
between
no
that
space,
danger
as
area
I
between
showed
the
you earlier,
midfield
just in between the back 4 and the midfield.
defensive line.
And
Furthermore, by having men
defending
back,
from Azpilicueta, this is a
very
different clip. It's not the same
for
one.
the team on offense.
But the shape's exactly the same.
Identical, and it worked, and you could tell Liverpool were getting frustrated because in the end
it
they
also
started
makes
knocking
it very
long
difficult to
balls.
throw in any
But look,
crosses
there's
because
nowhere
you just
for,
don't have the
for
manpower.
Liverpool.
For example,
to
a guy
go.
gets the ball right
10
here,
men behind the
he
ball
could
there,
throw in a
practically all of
cross,
them in their own
but you have
18-yard
about
box.
7 blue shirts
There's
against
just
2 red
nowhere
shirts.
to go
It
for
just simply
Liverpool.
doesn't work.
And
So I was looking at sort of mid-table teams and how they utilize a 4-4-2. One team that uses it is Bournemouth, and a good example of their success with defense is when they held Manchester United to 0 goals last December. You'll notice the blue dots are symbolic of United players, and you can see how basically every player is being picked up by a red shirt. And even if there's an overlap coming in, if Matt Ritchie or Stansis drop, they can pick up the side backs. So which means that even with overlaps, really the only player that can possibly be open for most United attacks is Fellaini. And if that's the case, you've done a pretty good job to defensively set your team against Manchester United's offense. And again, here is a picture showing you Chelsea a few years ago, and it shows you again the safety you have with a 4-4-2. For example, Cahill here has the ball. Let's say he passes it in the middle to Fabregas, who's making a run, but it gets intercepted. In that case, even if you lose the ball from the center back, you still have 1, 2, 3, 4 players behind the ball. And as you can see, even if Everton wins this ball in the middle of the pitch and a player pushes up there, they still have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's still a 4-on-4 even with a big passing mistake from the back line. And finally, another major benefit of the 4-4-2 is its clear structure. So it's easy to switch players in terms of left back and center backs, and you'll see most teams do this. Center backs are often adept to play right back, and you'll see left-footed center backs are adept to play left fullback. You'll see if teams need to be offensive, they'll throw in a very offensive player in a right fullback position. We've seen Manchester United do this throughout the years with Valencia or Giggs towards the end of his career. And you have this key number of 2. And what I mean here is that by having 2 central midfielders, 2 center backs, 2 center forwards, it makes it very clear in regards to the players what the expectations are for them to start and what type of rotation they may be in. So for example, with a 3-6-1, a big issue with that formation is that one forward is usually one of your best players. And you have to start that player, and it's very tough to take that player out of the system. To the contrary, when you have 2 center forwards, you can easily have 3-4 forwards and have them on a rotation, especially when this is a high school or college based where there's unlimited substitutes. It allows players to rest, it allows players to switch in and out easily without much confusion. So the 4-4-2, something to think about.